There are 5 mistakes hiding in almost every garage in America, and together, they'll cost you a good amount of money to fix. And the part of that should make you mad is every single one of them could have been done right for a few $100 back when you were framing. Nobody did it because a garage, well, it's just a garage and nobody's looking, right? To most builders, the garage is an afterthought. They frame a box, they hang the cheapest door they can find, and they move on to the parts of the house that people actually photograph. Then they spend the next 20 years working around their shortcuts. I've been building and renovating homes for years. These are the 5 garage mistakes I see almost every time. Ordered from the cheapest one to fix, all the way down to the, well, you basically can't fix it at all. Let's get into it. Mistake number 1, a 7-foot tall garage door. This is the standard in new construction, and it's the cheapest header height there is to frame, which is one of the reasons that builders use it. The 7-foot door clears a sedan and a very small SUV, and that's about it. The day you bring home a full-size SUV, or even a decent truck, Sprinter van, no little RV, honestly, a roof rack, there's no way. So, you'll find out the hard way about that 7-foot height. Getting it right at framing costs you $0. You just order an 8-foot door instead of a 7-foot. Or even go with a 9-foot if you want to be smart about it. And the framing costs identical. Fixing it after the fact? Totally different story. Because now you're raising the header, which means you're cutting and reframing. You're opening up drywall. You're moving an electric. You're moving the opener. And you have to get a whole new door. Now this could run you anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000. And it could have been done in the beginning. All for a door you should have just picked in the planning stage. Now this is for anybody that works in a garage. And this is my mistake number 2. A single 15 amp circuit running the entire garage. This is the electrical spec in about 90% of builder grade garages. One 15 amp circuit doing everything. The lights, the outlets, the opener, all on the same wire, and that's enough to run a fridge and a phone charger, and that's about where everything taps out. It is nowhere near enough for a treadmill, a freezer, a workshop, a tile saw, an air compressor, an EV charger, all the things that we use in our modern garages. Guys, charging an electrical vehicle takes its own dedicated 240, 50 amp circuit, and almost no production builder is running this. Adding it later, it's not that big a deal, but it is a project. You're pulling a new circuit from the panel. You might have to cut some drywall. You're definitely going to have to patch and paint. It just depends on where you put things. And a lot of these 20-year-old panels sometimes don't even have this space. So upgrading the panel first and then adding, guys, this can cost you anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000. Now, at rough end, that same circuit, couple $100. I think it's smart, if you know what you're going to be using your garage for, to plan this in the beginning. Real quick, this is exactly the stuff that my free renovation playbook is built for. The specs you lock in at rough so that you're not paying 10 times as much to fix them down the road. It's a room by room checklist you hand straight to your builder. The link's in my description. That's it. Talk about mistake number 3. No insulation in the wall and the ceiling you share with the house. Now, code requires a fire separation between an attached garage and the living space. So there's drywall on that wall, but code does not require thermal insulation in there. And most builders skip it because, well, you can't see it. It's a shared wall and a ceiling, and it radiates heat and cold into the rooms next to it and above the garage all year long. And it quietly drives your energy bill in those rooms maybe 10 to 15%. And there's a worse problem than an energy bill. An uninsulated, poorly sealed, shared ceiling can pull garage air, the exhaust fumes, the gas vapors, the carbon monoxide straight into the house, and return air when the heat kicks on. Now, that's your air your family breathes. Fixing it means opening up the drywall, getting insulation in there, and rehanging and taping, and of course paint. $3,000 to $6,000, depending on the size of the garage. Now, at framing, it's a few $100 to throw some insulation in there. Just do it. Make sure your contractor does it. Mistake number 4, a garage slab that slopes the wrong direction. This is the most expensive one on the list, and it's the one you can't even see without a level. A garage slab is supposed to slope gently from the back wall towards the door and about 1/8 of an inch per foot. So water, melting snow, and any spill will run out of the door and away from the house. When it gets poured wrong, the slope can run backwards towards the back wall, which it almost always does, or it can even run sideways. So every drop of water that comes into the garage drains the wrong way, or even towards your foundation. Now, over the years, that's a slow disaster. Water saturates the edge of the slab. It can get into the foundation, it can show up as moisture, mold, foundation cracks, and the room on the other side of that wall. your garage is quietly watering your foundation. You won't even know until the damage is already done. Now, once that slab is poured, your only option is grinding it down to the surface and redirecting the slope, cutting in a trench across the back, or jackhammering out sections and pouring them all over. This can run you anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000, maybe even $25,000 depending on the size of your garage. Now, all you had to do to fix that slope in the beginning is make sure it's being done correctly by your subcontractors when it's still wet. And mistake number 5, an 8-foot ceiling framed with builder grade trusses. This is the one you basically can't fix. Now, most production builders frame the garage with an 8-foot ceiling and the cheapest trusses the engineer will sign off on. Trusses rated to carry their own weight and nothing else. And that permanently kills 2 things. First, overhead storage, because those trusses can't hold 200 pounds of bins, kayaks, tires, holiday decorations, of course. Second is any shot of a workshop loft or a mezzanine up there. The space over your head exists. And if you're not allowed to use a single inch of it, what's the reason? Raising the ceiling later means tearing the roof completely off, re-engineering trusses, and rebuilding the entire roof structure, which could cost more than building a brand new garage, basically. So, you eat that mistake for as long as you live there, and you pay for a storage unit, a backyard shed, or a chunk of your actually house giving to hold the stuff that should be in the garage. The right spec at framing is a 10-foot ceiling with storage rated trusses, and it adds a few $100s in materials. A few $100s. Guys, do it now so you don't have to live with it later. So before you pour or frame a garage, guys, 5 specs to look at, to lock in and make sure. 1, order the door at least 8 feet tall and 16 to 18 feet wide. Number 2, have them run a dedicated 240 and 50 amp circuit at the rough end. So if there's ever an EV charging, you're set. Number 3, insulate the shared wall and ceiling between the garage and the house, even though code doesn't require it. It's for the energy savings, and it can keep the fumes out. 4, confirm the slab slopes in the direction towards the door before that concrete truck pulls up. And 5, spec a taller 10-foot ceiling with the rating for the trusses, because it costs a few $100 now, and it'll cost you a fortune down the road. Every one of these is cheap or free at the right stage, and the brutal and impossible to do afterwards. Get the spec right where there's still lines on a plan, and the garage stops being the most expensive afterthought in your house. Guys and gals, most of what makes a house actually work is what gets cut from the spec sheet because nobody's watching. Next video, I'm walking through the 5 spec sheet items every contractor hopes that you don't ask about. So I'll see you on the next one. And guys and girls, if you have any of these issues in your garages, let me know in the comments. As always, I'm reading all of them and trying to respond as best as I can. Thank you for watching Built by Becker.